Welcome to Sport, everyone. The Eagles have made it abundantly clear this week's derby is not just another game, saying it's time to turn the tables on their Freo foes. West Coast rate Sunday's game their best chance to break their derby duck on the back of a dramatic turnaround in form.
Just like the good old days, it was back to Woosh's weird and wacky ways. But while it may look like fun and games, West Coast have drawn a line in the sand.
I know personally I can't speak for everyone else, but I'm really keen to get a win over them.
It's probably our best chance in a while. I think over the last couple of years they've clearly been a better side, and this has certainly been disappointment in not having won one for quite some time. So, we're pretty keen to rectify that.
The Eagles, a very different looking team in 2011, playing a defensive brand of footy that Freo have perfected over the past 2 years.
Whichever side can sort of trap the footy and play their footy in their forward half for most of the day, it's going to be a big advantage. So the defensive pressure is definitely going to be a key to the game. So I'm expecting it to be a pretty tight game. So I think if we can lock the footy up and try and keep possession, it'll definitely help.
While game styles may have changed, the Stars have not. And two-time Ross Glendinning medalist Matthew Pavlich remains a threat.
To stop a player of that calibre, it's going to have to be a team effort. I don't think you can just rely on one bloke. So I think everyone's going to sort of have to be on their game.
But the Eagles are confident they have weapons of their own, with midfielder Daniel Kerr building towards top form after a blistering first half against the Bombers.
He's starting to show glimpses of the old Kerry and hopefully put in a full-quarter performance this week.
And it appears the tide is turning for the team as a whole, with today's training noticeably upbeat.
Everyone's pretty keen to be playing footy and having a lot of fun, and I mean it helps when you win a few games. So we're in pretty good spirits about this weekend as well. I think we think we're a pretty good chance.
Katie Price, 10 News.
And the fight to be fit continues for Freo forward Hayden Ballantyne. Now, the Dockers goal seat restricted to light duties at this morning's session as every precaution is being taken with his hamstring. Ballantyne pushing to play in Sunday's derby, but it will be the club with the final word. Forward Chris Mayne spent the morning running the boundary. Kepler Bradley and Luke McFarlane failed to break into a sweat, while Nat Fyfe showed no signs of a knock to the shoulder he copped against the Tigers. Meanwhile, Michael Barlow's return is on track. The midfielder training with the main group for the first time since breaking his leg 12 months ago. Meanwhile, Derby hero Paul Hasleby has broken the shackles of being a part of the Freo team. The four-time Ross Glendinning medalist talks tonight about the hatred between players from both teams and expects Sunday to be an emotional clash.
A Derby specialist prepared to tell it how it is.
There's no doubt the intensity in the first 10 to 15 minutes is far greater than any other game.
If only the players were allowed to follow suit.
It just means a lot to a lot of people, a lot of emotion, a little bit of hatred for a certain amount of players around town from both sides, so players just tend to try a little bit harder.
Paul Hasleby happy to play the role as analyst, and an honest one at that.
For the first time in a couple of years, we've got both teams actually playing for something. If Fremantle can win, really enhances their top four prospects. And West Coast, the way they're playing, if they win this game, you've got to think the finals are certainly on their radar.
The midfielder declaring Eagles link man Andrew Embley is always in Freo's sights, while Daniel Kerr should be a marked man.
I think Pritis gets a lot of the footy, but he's not as damaging as Daniel is. And
the four-time Ross Glendinning medalist with a word of warning for his old pal Aaron Sandilands, who has monstered the Eagles in recent encounters.
It's going to be a challenge. I think it's the first time where he's taking on the West Coast ruckman at their best. Dean Cox is fit, and now Nick Naitanui starting to play some good footy, particularly on the weekend.
West Coast with one notable weakness in recent games.
Yeah, we found last year that we actually felt like we stole one of the derbies where they had a lot of more possession, a lot more inside 50s, and just didn't put us away on the scoreboard.
The Eagles' derby drought of 7 straight losses looming as the telling factor.
A lot of these younger players wouldn't have played in a winning game against Fremantle, so that would be messing with their psyche.
Lockie Reid, 10 News.
And while the derby is for our two WA teams, it's also normally a big stage for our West Australian umpires, field, boundary and goal. But 10 News understands the local lads are out of favour for Sunday's clash at Patterson Stadium. Several incidents in games in the West this season have raised the ire of the AFL umpires department. First of all, the Brian Lake out-of-bounds non-call led to a local boundary umpire being dropped and a Victorian being flown to Perth. But the Melbourne Eagles clash saw 2 more mistakes get the Boss's blood boiling, and out of bounds on the full missed and a poster that was called a goal. Now, with both incidents were fixed on the night, but it seems punishment for the boys in Perth continues. It's believed all 3 field umpires will be Eastern Staters. 2 of the 4 boundary umps will also be flown in, and there'll be no local flag wavers standing in goal. Umpires' appointments will be made official tomorrow, but only 2 of the 9 umpires will be WA-based for the Derby.